The Galactic Union had always viewed Earth as a backwater world, an insignificant blue marble spinning in the void. Humanity was tolerated, studied, and, when necessary, manipulated. The Union's great empires had seen Earth's technological progress and had ensured it remained limited. Treaties disguised as peacekeeping measures kept humanity from developing beyond its infancy, while covert interference stifled its greatest minds. The arrogance of the galaxy's ruling species dictated that Earth would remain under control, docile and restrained, and for a time, humanity accepted it. But everything changed when the Galactic Union made one fatal mistake. When the Varak Dominion, one of the Union's most feared war fleets, descended upon a Terran colony on Europa, they expected the usual response: pleading, surrender, compliance. After all, humanity had never once retaliated against the invisible shackles imposed on it. But this time there was no submission. There was no diplomacy. Instead, the Varak fleet was reduced to nothing but shattered metal and silent distress signals within hours. For the first time in recorded galactic history, an advanced species witnessed the true power humanity had concealed for centuries. Earth had been holding back. And now, it wouldn't anymore. The Galactic Union convened in emergency session, a rare sight. The Grand Chamber, a massive assembly of representatives from over 1,000 species, hummed with tension. Murmurs rippled through the gathered diplomats, the whispers carrying only one question: how did the humans do it? The Varak Dominion had a fleet that could crack planets, its warships capable of turning atmospheres into firestorms. And yet, against all reason, against all expectations, the humans had eradicated them. Not just defeated, eradicated. Chancellor Zoroven, an elder of the Kalexi race and one of the longest-serving Union officials, rose to address the assembly. His elongated form shimmered under the hall's artificial lighting as he tapped his clawed fingers against the speaking podium. "This incident," he began, his voice strained, "raises an urgent matter that must be addressed before it spirals beyond our grasp. Humanity has long been an enigma, a species of rapid development, insatiable curiosity, and a troubling resistance to control. We believed them manageable. We believed them inferior." His pale eyes flickered. "We were wrong." The chamber fell into uneasy silence. A Ralthos delegate, its amphibian-like features twitching in discomfort, finally spoke. Surely this was an anomaly. A single victory against an unprepared fleet does not make them a threat. Zoroven turned his gaze to the delegate. An anomaly? The Dominion fleet was comprised of 53 warships, each one equipped with the most advanced weaponry the Union permits outside our own armada. Humanity destroyed them in under 5 hours. He let the weight of the words settle before adding, "without losing a single ship." A ripple of shock coursed through the chamber. The statement was impossible. The Silver Ambassador, an old and battle-hardened warrior, growled. "What are they hiding? We have monitored their technological progress. We have suppressed their weapons research, sabotaged their breakthroughs, ensured their fleets remained primitive. How could they—" The doors of the Grand Chamber slammed open. A figure strode in. Alone. The murmurs died instantly. She was human. She moved with the deliberate confidence of someone who knew she did not need permission to be here. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Terran Defense Coalition, a division the Union had believed to be nothing more than a planetary security force. She stopped at the center of the hall, her gaze sweeping across the gathered species, before finally resting on Chancellor Zoroven. "You misunderstand," she said, her voice calm, controlled, yet carrying an unmistakable undercurrent of warning. "You believe we somehow leaped ahead in technology, that we made an impossible advancement overnight." A smirk touched her lips, cold and humorless. "Number, we didn't advance suddenly. We've been capable of this for over a century." Stunned silence. She took another step forward. "Your mistake was assuming we were stupid, that we didn't know you were interfering, keeping us in check, that we didn't see through every single blockade, restriction, and treaty designed to slow us down." Her gaze hardened. "We knew." The room remained deathly still. "For decades, we played along. We let you think we were harmless, that we were content with your scraps of technology, your peaceful restrictions." She raised a small device in her hand, pressing a button. Instantly, the chamber's central display screen flickered to life. A live feed appeared, an aerial view of Earth's true fleet, a massive armada of warships, more ships than anyone in the Galactic Union had believed humanity even capable of producing. Sleek, advanced vessels hovered in low orbit, their forms a terrifying blend of human ingenuity and something else, something beyond the Union's understanding. Energy signatures pulsed from them, weapons glowing with restrained lethality. "We built all of this in secret," the human continued, her voice sharp as a blade. "While you monitored our public developments, we built what you never saw. You think you suppressed our military?" She let out a low chuckle. "You only suppressed what we let you see." Zoroven's voice was a whisper of disbelief. "Why?" Her eyes met his. "Because we knew, eventually, you'd push too far. That one day, you'd believe your control over us was absolute. That you'd make the mistake of thinking we were weak." She let the silence hang before delivering the final blow. "You wanted us to stay in the shadows. But now?" She smiled. "We step into the light." And with that, humanity made its warning to the galaxy clear. Earth had held back. But no more. The chamber erupted into chaos. The gathered representatives of the Galactic Union spoke over one another, voices clashing in fear, outrage, and disbelief. "This is an act of war," bellowed the Solver ambassador, his deep blue skin darkening with rage. The Ralthos delegate, more wary than angry, hissed, "No, this is a demonstration." His bulbous eyes flicked back to the screen, where the terrifying fleet of human warships loomed over Earth. "They're not attacking. They're warning us." Chancellor Zoroven's elongated fingers curled around the edges of his podium as he struggled to regain his composure. "This is absurd," he said, though his voice lacked its usual authority. "You expect us to believe humanity concealed a military force of this magnitude for decades?" The human, Commander Elena Carter, smiled. "Believe what you want," she said simply. "The evidence speaks for itself." Zoroven inhaled slowly, his mind racing. If what she claimed was true, if humanity had been deceiving the entire Galactic Union for over a century, it would mean they were infinitely more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. He forced himself to speak evenly. "If you were aware of our interference, why tolerate it? Why not reveal your true strength before now?" Commander Carter's expression darkened. "Because we wanted to believe peace was possible," she said. "We wanted to believe we could coexist with the rest of the galaxy without resorting to force." She glanced around the chamber. "But your actions proved otherwise. The restrictions, the sabotage, the way you kept us locked in place while your so-called greater species flourished. You never saw us as equals." A low growl rumbled from the Solver ambassador. "Because you aren't. Humanity is young, reckless, violent. Do you expect us to believe you would wield power responsibly?" Carter turned to him, gaze unwavering. "We've been responsible enough to hold back, haven't we?" The word sent a chill through the chamber. Silence stretched between them, heavy with realization. Then Zoroven exhaled. "What do you want?" Carter stepped forward, placing a small data chip onto the podium before him. "Simple," she said. "The Galactic Union will remove every restriction placed upon Earth. No more interference, no more artificial limitations. We develop on our own terms, without sabotage." The Ralthos delegate leaned forward. "And if we refuse?" Her expression didn't change. "Then we'll stop holding back." A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. Carter let them sit with the weight of the words before continuing. "Humanity does not seek war, but we will not be leashed. We will not be caged." She gestured to the screen again, where the human fleet remained motionless in orbit. "You are looking at one of our fleets. If we wanted war, you wouldn't be debating right now. You'd be burning." The threat was unspoken, but unmistakable. Zoroven's claws tapped against the data chip. "We will deliberate," he said carefully. Carter gave a small nod. "Take your time." Then she turned and walked toward the chamber doors. Just before exiting, she glanced back. "But don't take too long." And then she was gone. The Galactic Union was left staring at the cold, undeniable truth. Humanity had played them all, and the galaxy would never be the same. The chamber remained frozen long after Commander Carter had left. Some delegates still gawked at the screen, where the massive human fleet hovered like silent executioners, their sleek hulls reflecting the distant glow of Sul. Others sat in stunned silence, processing the revelation that humanity had deceived them for over a century. Chancellor Zoroven closed his eyes for a long moment, his mind churning. For years, the Galactic Union had operated under the assumption that Earth was under control. Humanity had been monitored, its progress stifled, its expansion carefully curtailed. It was a species known for its stubbornness, but never its true potential. That illusion had just been shattered. Zoroven turned to the Solvar ambassador, whose jaws were clenched in barely restrained fury. "Well?" the ambassador snapped. "What do we do?" The Ralthos delegate, still watching the fleet on the screen, exhaled through his gills. "We have two choices," he said slowly. "We can grant them their request, remove the restrictions and allow them to develop freely." His large black eyes flicked toward Zoroven. Or, the Chancellor finished the thought for him. "Or we go to war." A hush fell over the chamber. The Silver Ambassador slammed a fist against his table. "We should crush them before they grow any stronger. They have lied to us, manipulated us, and now they dare to make demands? This is an insult." Zoroven turned his gaze toward him. "Are you suggesting we declare war on a species that we have clearly underestimated?" "They are still only human," the ambassador snarled. "They may have concealed their fleet, but they are not invincible. The Union's combined forces would—" "You don't know that," Zoroven cut him off. The Solvar bristled. "Are you afraid of them?" The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. "I am cautious. Unlike you, I recognize that we have miscalculated. Every assumption we had about humanity was incorrect. If we underestimated them once, what makes you think we're not underestimating them now?" The ambassador opened his mouth, but no words came. Because Zoroven was right. The Union had believed Earth to be nothing more than an unruly but manageable backwater. They had assumed their interference had kept humanity docile. Now they were faced with the chilling reality. Humanity had allowed them to think that. The Ralthos delegate spoke again, voice measured. "If we go to war and lose—" He let the thought linger before adding, "We risk making them the new dominant power in the galaxy." Another silence. The Silver Ambassador, still tense with rage, exhaled slowly. You believe we should give in to their demands? Zoroven looked at the screen once more. At the massive fleet that remained in perfect, motionless formation, at the warships that had, for decades, never been seen, until humanity decided it was time. Finally, he turned back to the chamber and said, I believe we no longer have a choice. On the dark side of Earth's moon, a hidden command station monitored the entire interaction. Commander Elena Carter stood before the observation window, hands clasped behind her back, watching the Union's transmissions in real time. The Galactic Union had never truly feared humanity before. But they did now. Behind her, Admiral Marcus Raines let out a quiet chuckle. You should have seen their faces, Carter, like children realizing they've been playing with a loaded gun. Carter smirked but didn't take her eyes off the screen. They thought they were leashing a beast, she murmured. They never realized we were just waiting for the right moment to bite. Raines folded his arms. You think they'll comply? They don't have a choice. She finally turned to face him. They know if they resist, they're done. The Admiral nodded. And if they do comply? Carter's smirk faded, replaced by something colder. Then we prepare. Raines arched a brow. For what? Carter met his gaze. For the next empire that tries to control us? Because humanity had learned a long time ago, the only way to survive in the galaxy is to rule it. The Galactic Union's official response came 3 days later. A message was broadcast across all Union channels, reaching every member world, every colony, and every fleet across the stars. It was a carefully worded statement, one that tried to mask what the Union had truly become: afraid. In recognition of humanity's right to self-determination, the Galactic Union hereby lifts all technological restrictions placed upon Earth and its colonies. From this day forward, Terran development shall proceed without external limitation. The message continued, filled with diplomatic pleasantries about strengthening interstellar cooperation and mutual respect between species. But the truth was clear. The Union had surrendered. For the first time in its history, a lesser species had defied galactic law and won. And Earth was just getting started, from the highest levels of government to the workers in the factories, from the engineers in hidden research facilities to the soldiers training in underground bunkers. Every human who saw that broadcast knew exactly what it meant. Humanity was no longer a subject. It was now a power. Within hours of the announcement, massive industrial complexes, once forced to operate in secret, came to life. The hidden shipyards of Titan, long disguised as barren wastelands, roared as warships were pulled from the shadows. Factories on Mars, once forced to manufacture outdated civilian tech, now churned out state-of-the-art weapons of war. No longer shackled by Union-imposed restrictions, true human ingenuity was unleashed. For decades, Earth had pretended to be a lesser species. Now it would show the galaxy what it really was. Chancellor Zoroven stood before his private terminal, staring at the latest intelligence reports. It had only been a week since the Union's concession, and already the humans had tripled their military production. Entire fleets were being assembled at a speed that defied logic, utilizing technologies that Union scientists had never seen before. Even more alarming were the reports of human AI systems. For centuries, the Union had restricted the development of artificial intelligence, fearing that uncontrolled machine minds could destabilize galactic civilization. But Earth had ignored those warnings, and now, human AI networks were operating at levels beyond comprehension. Zoroven exhaled slowly. We didn't just free them, we unleashed them. A sudden chime interrupted his thoughts. He turned toward his communication console. The secure diplomatic channel was flashing. Earth was calling. He hesitated only for a moment before answering. The screen flickered, and there she was, Commander Elena Carter. She smiled. "Chancellor," she said smoothly, "I hope you've been well." Zoroven's voice was careful. "To what do I owe the pleasure, Commander?" Her smile didn't fade, but there was something behind it. Something dangerous. "I thought I'd extend an invitation," she said, "a friendly gesture between two great powers." Zoroven's fingers curled slightly. An invitation to what? Carter leaned forward, her expression unreadable. "To the future." And just like that, the balance of the galaxy shifted. The era of human submission was over. Now it was time for humanity to rise. The future. Zoroven sat in the dim glow of his private chamber, Carter's words still lingering in his mind. For centuries, the Galactic Union had held its place as the sole authority in the known galaxy. It had crushed rebellions, subdued expansionist empires, and maintained a delicate balance of power among the stars. But now, something had changed. Humanity had played the game better than anyone. And the Union? The Union had walked right into the trap. On Earth, deep within the fortified command center beneath Geneva, Carter stood before a large holographic map of the known galaxy. Dozens of glowing indicators marked human-controlled territories, research stations, and newly mobilized fleets. Admiral Marcus Raines entered the room, his expression unreadable. "You spoke to Zoroven?" Carter smirked. He's starting to realize the mistake they made. Raines glanced at the map. "Then it's time to move forward." Carter nodded. "The restrictions are gone. We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we expand. Fast." She gestured toward the outer sectors of the Union-controlled space. "The independent colonies have been waiting for this moment. They hate the Union, and they're looking for a new leader." Raines raised a brow. "And we're offering them that leader?" Carter turned to face him, her expression deadly serious. "No," she said. "We're offering them something better." She tapped the console, and the holographic display shifted, showing blueprints for a new type of fleet. Sleek, heavily armored, weapons that had never been allowed under Union control. Ships designed not for defense, but for domination. Raines exhaled. "You think they'll follow us?" Carter gave a slow, confident smile. "They won't have a choice." Across the galaxy, the shockwaves of humanity's rise were already spreading. On the planet Xiphos 3, an independent colony just beyond Union borders, news of Earth's newfound freedom had sent the ruling factions into a frenzy. "The humans are mobilizing," one of the governors muttered, scanning the intercepted transmissions. "Their ships are everywhere." His advisor nodded grimly. "And they're calling for allies." The governor's tendrils twitched in unease. "We've resisted the Union for years. If Earth can truly stand against them—" He didn't need to finish the thought, because they both knew the truth. If humanity was rising, then the Union's days were numbered. Back on Earth, Carter watched as another fleet departed from Mars' shipyards, their thrusters burning bright against the void. She exhaled. They had held back for so long. But now? Now the galaxy was about to see what happened when humanity stopped pretending. She turned to Raines. "Send the message." Raines gave a sharp nod. "To whom?" Carter's smirk returned. "To everyone." And with that, the first steps of humanity's new empire began. The message went out across the stars. A transmission, clear and undeniable, was broadcast to every independent colony, every fringe world, and every faction that had suffered under the Galactic Union's rule. It was simple. "The Union's control is over. Humanity has risen. Join us or be left behind." It was not a threat. It was a promise. Chancellor Zoroven sat in his private chambers, watching as reports flooded in. Border colonies were defecting. Independent worlds, long kept under the Union's thumb, were aligning with Earth. Even Union-controlled planets, those that had suffered under strict rule and economic exploitation, were questioning their loyalty. And the worst part? Humanity wasn't forcing anyone to join them. They didn't need to. The offer was enough. The Union had ruled through control, through laws and limitations. It had treated species like subjects instead of equals. Humanity? Humanity offered something more. They offered freedom. But Zoroven wasn't fooled. Beneath their promises, beneath their carefully chosen words, one thing was clear. They would not be stopped. If the Union resisted, Earth would crush them, and the galaxy knew it. Deep in Union space, the Solver ambassador paced inside his war chamber. His claws scraped against the cold metal floor as he turned to his gathered military officers. "They're expanding too fast," he hissed. "Every moment we hesitate, another colony joins them." A general nodded. "Our fleets are still superior in number. If we strike now, we can destroy their forces before they solidify their power." The ambassador's eyes gleamed. "Then we strike." He slammed a fist against the table. "Summon the High Council. Tell them it's time." On the bridge of Earth's flagship, the UNS Avalon, Commander Elena Carter stood beside Admiral Rains as they watched the transmissions unfold. "Here it comes," Rains murmured. Carter smirked as the official Union declaration of war flashed across the screen. "Right on schedule," she said. Rains turned to her. "Orders?" Carter's voice was calm, steady. "Activate Phase 2. Across the void, hidden fleets emerged from the darkness. Earth had been preparing for this exact moment, and the galaxy was about to learn the final, terrifying truth. Humanity never wanted peace. They wanted victory. And now they were going to take it. The moment the Galactic Union's war declaration went public, the illusion of stability shattered. Fleets mobilized, border systems fortified. Worlds that had remained neutral were forced to choose sides. But the Union had made one final miscalculation. They believed war would stop humanity. Instead, they had given Earth exactly what it wanted. In the depths of space, Phase 2 was already in motion. Across the hidden shipyards of Titan, Europa, and the asteroid belt, humanity's true fleets came online. These were not the warships the Union had monitored over the years. These were the real weapons of Earth's ascension. Massive dreadnoughts, ships equipped with energy weapons that Union scientists had once deemed impossible. Ships powered by AI battle networks, capable of outmaneuvering entire fleets without a single human touch. Ships designed with one purpose: conquest. On the bridge of the UNS Avalon, Commander Carter and Admiral Rains stood before the tactical display. Red indicators, Union fleets, were moving into battle formations. Blue indicators, Earth's hidden forces, began to emerge from their deep space strongholds. Carter exhaled slowly. For centuries, humanity had been told what it could and couldn't do. For decades, the Union had believed itself untouchable. For years, Earth had waited, planned, prepared. Now it was time to strike. She turned to Rains. "Execute the battle plan." The Admiral gave a nod. "All forces," he commanded. "Engage." At the edge of Union space, near the heavily fortified colony of Veltar Prime, the first battle began. A fleet of 200 Union warships moved into formation, their weapons locking onto the first wave of human vessels. The fleet commander, a veteran Solvar admiral, sneered. "They are still outnumbered," he growled. "Destroy them." But as the first human warships opened fire, something became clear. Earth's weapons were beyond anything the Union had ever seen. Union shields, once believed to be impenetrable, melted in seconds under the onslaught of human plasma lances. Their defensive formations, rendered useless by the precision of human AI-coordinated strikes. And then, the real horror began. From the depths of space, Earth's Titan-class dreadnoughts emerged, massive, silent, unstoppable. Their weapons fired once, and entire Union battleships vanished. The Silver Admiral barely had time to process what was happening before the humans tore through his forces like a storm of fire and death. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. Across the galaxy, similar reports came flooding in. The Union was losing. Badly. Worlds that had once feared defying the Union began revolting. Fleets that had once served without question were now deserting. And through it all, humanity continued to advance. Faster, stronger, merciless. The Union had thought they were the rulers of the galaxy. But now, the galaxy saw the truth. The age of the Union was over. The era of humanity had begun, and Earth was coming for the throne. The fall of the Galactic Union was no longer a question of if, only when. Reports flooded into Union command. Entire sectors lost, fleets obliterated, allies turning against them. The once mighty Union, which had ruled the stars for centuries, was crumbling under the weight of humanity's unstoppable advance. In the Union capital world of Varenth, Chancellor Zoroven stood before the High Council, his voice tight with controlled fury. "We have underestimated them for too long," he growled. "Humanity was never weak. They were waiting." A Thelmar delegate hissed in frustration. "Then we must negotiate. Offer them terms before we lose everything." Zoroven slammed his fist against the table. "There are no terms to offer. Can't you see? They don't just want victory. They want the Union erased." The chamber fell silent. Because deep down, every council member knew it was true. The humans weren't stopping. They weren't slowing down. They were taking everything. And there was nothing the Union could do to stop them. On the bridge of the UNS Avalon, Commander Elena Carter stood before the galaxy's final battlefield. The Union had pulled back to their core worlds, making their last stand above Varenth itself. Carter stared at the enemy fleet. Over 1,000 warships, every last vessel the Union still had. But behind her, humanity's forces stretched across the void, stronger than ever. Dreadnoughts, assault carriers, AI-driven war machines. The Union still had numbers. Humanity had power. And power was all that mattered. Rains turned to her. "Your orders?" Carter's lips curled into a smile. "End this." The final battle of the Galactic Union lasted less than 2 hours. Union ships burned. Their capital defenses shattered. Their leaders tried to flee, but there was nowhere left to run. Humanity had been patient for far too long. And now? They claimed everything. The once mighty Union capital fell silent. Across the stars, the news spread. The war was over. Humanity had won. And as the banners of the old Union were torn down, a new symbol rose in its place, the Terran Dominion. Earth had been underestimated, oppressed, restricted. But now they stood at the head of a new galactic empire, and the message to the stars was clear. Humanity had held back, but no more. The galaxy watched in silence. The once mighty Galactic Union had been reduced to ashes. Their fleets, their worlds, their history, all of it crushed beneath the iron grip of humanity's relentless march. Across the stars, governments, factions, and independent colonies faced an undeniable truth. Earth was no longer just another player in the great galactic game. Earth had become the game itself. On the surface of Varenth, the former Union capital, Chancellor Zoroven stood in the ruins of what was once the High Council's grand chamber. The great banners of the Union, symbols of its once unchallenged power, lay trampled in the dust. Above him, massive Terran Dominion warships blotted out the sky, their silent presence a grim reminder of who now ruled. Zorovan turned as a shadow approached, Commander Elena Carter. She walked with the confidence of someone who had already won, dressed in the dark, sleek uniform of the Dominion's elite. She stopped before him, arms crossed. "You lost." The words were simple, director, undeniable. Zorovan exhaled. "You think you've saved the galaxy?" His voice was bitter. "You think humanity will do better than we did?" Carter tilted her head. "Better?" She smiled. A slow, calculated thing. "No," she said. "We'll do worse." Zorovan stiffened. Carter leaned in. "The Union held power by controlling laws, by maintaining order. You ruled through restriction." She gestured around them, to the ruins of the chamber, to the wreckage of a fallen empire. "We rule through fear." She stepped back, her gaze cold. "The galaxy learned to mock humanity, to suppress us, to put us in chains." Her voice dropped lower. "Now, it will learn to kneel." Across the stars, the Terran Dominion expanded without resistance. The message was clear: join, obey, or be erased. Worlds that had once defied Earth submitted without a fight. Fleets that once belonged to the Union were now branded with Terran insignia. Rebellions, uprisings, crushed before they could even begin. Humanity's patience was gone, and the galaxy was theirs. On Earth, in the newly built halls of the Dominion's command center, Carter stood before a massive star map. Admiral Rains approached. "It's done. The last Union forces have surrendered." Carter nodded. "Good." Rains hesitated. "And what of the remaining independent systems?" Carter smirked. "They'll fall in time." She turned, her gaze sharp as steel. "This isn't just about ruling, Rains. The galaxy thought we were weak, thought we could be tamed." Her fingers traced the outline of conquered territories. "They need to understand something." She looked at him. "Humanity isn't just here to rule." Her voice was quiet, deadly. "We're here to dominate." And across the galaxy, in every corner of known space, one truth became unshakably clear. Humanity had arrived, and the stars would never be the same again. The galaxy no longer questioned who ruled. The Terran Dominion had erased the last remnants of the old order. The Galactic Union was gone, its leaders either executed or exiled. The few independent systems that still clung to the illusion of autonomy knew their days were numbered. Humanity's iron grip tightened with each passing cycle. And the stars? The stars belonged to Earth. On the former Union capital world of Varenth, the streets were eerily silent. Gone were the days of crowded markets and bustling trade districts. Now Terran patrols stalked the avenues, their presence a constant reminder of humanity's dominance. The people, once proud citizens of the Union, walked with their heads down, their voices hushed. They knew better than to resist, because the Dominion did not tolerate resistance. In the heart of the Terran Dominion Command Center, Commander Elena Carter stood before a massive viewport overlooking the conquered world. Admiral Rains stood at her side. "It's over," he murmured. Carter didn't answer immediately. Her gaze remained fixed on the blackened sky, where Terran warships loomed like silent gods. Finally she spoke. "Not yet." Rains frowned. "What do you mean? The Union is gone. Their fleets destroyed. Their worlds taken." Carter exhaled slowly. "We didn't just take their empire, Rains." Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. "We took their place." She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "The Union thought they were the unchallenged rulers of the stars." Her eyes gleamed. "Now we are." Rains hesitated. "And what happens when someone else rises? When another species does to us what we did to them?" Carter's smirk was dangerous. Then we remind them." She turned back to the viewport, watching as yet another fleet of Terran warships leaped into hyperspace, heading toward another system, another world yet to be claimed. The galaxy made one mistake, Rains. She placed her hands behind her back, her voice filled with finality. They thought humanity would be content with survival. She let the words hang in the air. They never understood. Her gaze darkened. We were always meant to conquer. And across the void, from the deepest corners of unexplored space to the fringes of known civilization, the stars trembled. Because the age of the Union had ended, and the age of humanity's reign had just begun. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity. For centuries, the Council, composed of the most advanced alien civilizations in the universe, had kept humanity under control, monitoring their progress, limiting their expansion, and ensuring they never became a threat. Humans were seen as dangerous, unpredictable, and too aggressive for interstellar diplomacy. When Earth finally achieved faster-than-light travel, the Council responded with swift and decisive action. Humanity was banned. Every human colony beyond the solar system was forcefully abandoned. Trade routes were severed. All diplomatic ties were cut. The Council declared that any species aiding humanity would face severe consequences. Earth was isolated, cast into the void like a diseased world unworthy of galactic civilization. They thought it would break humanity, but it only made them stronger. The year was 2961, and Earth was no longer the helpless backwater the Council believed it to be. Deprived of resources, humanity had adapted. Forced to rely only on themselves, they had innovated at a terrifying pace. Within a century, Earth's technology had surpassed even the most advanced civilizations of the Council. The old, bureaucratic empires of the galaxy had grown complacent, their power stagnant. Humanity, however, had been forged in struggle. They had learned how to build warships with minimal resources, how to create energy weapons that required a fraction of the power of traditional Council weaponry, and most terrifyingly, how to enhance their own biology. The exiled species had become something far more dangerous than before. The Council's mistake was believing that fear and isolation would weaken humans. Instead, it had united them. And now, after centuries in the shadows, humanity was ready to return. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, in the ruins of an old mining station, General Elias Kane stood before a massive screen displaying tactical data. The room was dimly lit, the air thick with tension. Around him, Earth's greatest military minds watched in silence. "We're done hiding," Kane said, his voice low but firm. The room erupted into murmurs, but none dared to argue. The Council had pushed humanity too far. The ban had not just exiled them, it had made them enemies. Operation Revenant begins now. Across the solar system, hidden fleets powered up their engines. Generations of secret preparation had led to this moment. The humans had built warships faster, deadlier, and more resilient than anything the galaxy had seen. Their soldiers, genetically enhanced, battle-hardened, and trained for the sole purpose of reclaiming their place, were ready. The Galactic Council believed humanity had been defeated. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Galactic Council remained oblivious to what was coming. For centuries, they had turned their attention elsewhere, focusing on petty squabbles between the dominant alien races, content in their belief that humanity had withered away in exile. But now, the first signs of Earth's return were beginning to ripple through the galaxy. It started as whispers, ships vanishing along the outer trade routes, deep space communication hubs going silent, supply convoys failing to reach their destinations. The Council dismissed these as pirate raids, an inconvenience at most. Then, the attacks became more precise. A Jari battleship, one of the largest in the Council fleet, was found adrift near the Orion Expanse, its crew missing, its weapon systems disabled in ways no one could explain. A month later, a secret council research station on the edges of the Alpha Draconis system went completely dark. When a reconnaissance team arrived, they found every security system fried, data cores stolen, and the words, "We remember," scrawled across the station's walls in a language no alien could read. The council was beginning to take notice. On Earth, deep beneath the frozen wastelands of Antarctica, General Kane stood in the heart of humanity's greatest weapon, the Warborn Command Center. Before him, a holographic display of the galaxy flickered, red marks appearing where their strikes had already been felt. Beside him, Commander Asha Varma, leader of the Phantom Division, spoke with quiet intensity. "The Council is still in the dark," she said. "They don't realize it's us yet, but they're getting closer." Kane nodded, eyes fixed on the galactic map. "Let them wonder. Let them grow paranoid. By the time they realize the truth, it'll be too late." Phantom Division was humanity's greatest creation. Soldiers augmented with biosynthetic enhancements, capable of infiltrating even the most fortified alien strongholds. They moved unseen, striking like ghosts, leaving nothing behind but fear. Kane turned to the rest of the War Council. "The time for small strikes is coming to an end. We need a message." His gaze hardened. "Something they can't ignore." Commander Varma exchanged a glance with Admiral Nix, leader of the Black Armada, Earth's hidden war fleet. A slow, knowing smile spread across Nix's face. "There's a council stronghold in the Tau Ceti system," Nix said. "A fortress world, heavily defended, one of their most secure locations outside the core worlds. If we hit it, they'll have no choice but to acknowledge us." A hush fell over the room. To strike a world of the Council was an act of war, but war had been inevitable the moment humanity had been cast out. Kane exhaled slowly, then spoke with finality. "Then Tau Ceti falls." Across the solar system, humanity's fleets prepared for the first open battle in centuries. The Black Armada, a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, emerged from the hidden shipyards of Titan. Weapons were primed, engines roared to life, and soldiers stood ready, their minds filled with generations of anger and determination. The Council had thought they had crushed humanity. Now, humanity was coming for them. The fleet moved in silence. Hundreds of warships, sleek and angular, designed for speed and devastation, cut through the void as they approached Tau Ceti. The Black Armada had been forged in the darkness of exile, each ship a product of desperation, innovation, and revenge. They bore no insignia, no markings, only the cold, black armor that swallowed light, a fleet of shadows descending upon the Galactic Council's fortress world. Aboard the Nemesis, Admiral Nix stood at the command deck, her silver eyes reflecting the tactical displays around her. "Stealth drives holding," one of her officers reported. "Council sensors won't see us until it's too late." Nix allowed herself a grim smile. "Let's make history, then." On the surface of Tau Ceti III, the Council's fortress stood as a monument to their arrogance. The world housed one of the largest garrisons outside the core worlds, with planetary defense grids, orbital cannons, and enough firepower to hold off an entire fleet. But it wasn't built to stop this fleet. The first sign of the attack was the blackout. In an instant, the planet's communication networks collapsed. Every satellite, every relay station, every security system, silent. The fortress's automated defenses flickered, their targeting systems scrambled by unseen forces. Then the sky opened. Human warships, moving with terrifying precision, rained fire upon the Council's forces. Orbital cannons were wiped out in seconds. Anti-air batteries turned to molten slag before they could even activate. The fortress, once a symbol of the Council's might, had become a tomb. From above, the Phantom Division deployed. Silent figures dropped from the sky, clad in adaptive armor that blended with the shadows. They moved like wraiths, bypassing defenses with ease, cutting down guards before they could raise alarms. Commander Asha Varma led the charge, her squad infiltrating the command center. The alien officers inside barely had time to react before they were executed with ruthless efficiency. Within minutes, the Council stronghold was in flames. In the Council's capital world of Verathis Prime, panic erupted. News of the attack reached the ruling chambers with unprecedented urgency. A race that was supposed to be banished had just wiped out an entire fortress world without suffering a single loss. Senator Zalthor, a reptilian representative of the Jari Empire, slammed a clawed fist onto the table. "This is impossible. Humanity was neutralized." Across the chamber, Supreme Chancellor Vokhtar, leader of the Galactic Council, stared at the transmission. Smoke and fire filled the view screen, the ruins of Tau Ceti 3 standing as proof of their failure. A single message had been left behind for the Council to see, carved into the ruins of their stronghold. "We have not forgotten. We have not forgiven." The Chancellor's mandibles clicked in agitation. We were fools to believe they would stay silent. Zalthor's eyes narrowed. "Then we crush them. We gather the fleets and we burn Earth to the ground." A new voice interrupted, cold, calculating. "No." All eyes turned to the speaker, High Strategist Elvan of the Karithi Dominion, the most advanced military mind in the Council. Her insectoid form remained motionless as her many eyes analyzed the situation. "They have been preparing for centuries," Elvan said. "They have struck a world we considered untouchable. They are not acting out of desperation. This was a test." The chamber grew silent. Elvan's voice was devoid of emotion. "Humanity does not fear us anymore." Her many eyes blinked in eerie synchronization. "But we should fear them." Back in the Sol system, aboard the Nemesis, Admiral Nix stood at the bridge, watching the retreating smoke from Tau Ceti on the view screens. "Mission complete," Commander Varma's voice came through the comms. "The Council knows we're back." Nix turned to General Kane, who stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "They're going to respond," she said. Kane nodded. "That's what we want." He stepped forward, staring out at the void, his voice calm. "Now, we show them what happens when you try to erase humanity." The Council wasted no time. Within days, a massive fleet had been assembled. Thousands of warships from every major species, a show of force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Council's response was swift and merciless, a total military campaign to destroy Earth and eradicate humanity once and for all. From their throne world of Verathis Prime, Supreme Chancellor Vokhtar issued a declaration of war, broadcast across the stars. Humanity was given its chance. It was warned, it was exiled, and now it has chosen war. "We will not allow this disease to spread. Earth will be purged. The mistake of their survival ends now. Across the Council's empire, fleets mobilized. War factories roared to life. Armies were deployed. They believed this was a war they could win in days, perhaps weeks at most. They had no idea what they were walking into. On Earth, General Kane stood in the Warborn Command Center, surrounded by holographic projections of the incoming Council fleets. The enemy was moving fast. Good. The humans had spent centuries in the shadows, refining their weapons, testing their strategies, and designing technologies the galaxy had never seen. The war humanity had prepared for was finally here. Commander Asha Varma adjusted her combat gauntlet. "They're bringing everything they have," Admiral Nix smirked. "Then they've already lost." The Council believed humanity would fight a traditional war. Fleet against fleet, planetary sieges, ground battles. They assumed humanity would break under overwhelming firepower. But the Council still didn't understand what humanity had become. They didn't understand the phantom fleets, the experimental stealth warships that could phase between dimensions, striking without warning. They didn't understand the Legion Protocol, the AI-driven war networks that allowed human forces to act as one unified mind, predicting enemy movements with terrifying accuracy. They didn't understand Project Revenant, the bio-enhanced super soldiers bred for war, stronger, faster, and more adaptable than anything the galaxy had ever faced. They didn't understand that humanity had turned war into an art form, and they were about to learn. The first Council fleets arrived at the edges of the solar system, expecting to face resistance. Instead, they found nothing. No defenses, no fleets, just the cold emptiness of space. Arrogance clouded their judgment. They advanced deeper. And then, the traps activated. Invisible mines tore through warships. Energy storms fried navigation systems. Cybernetic viruses shut down entire command networks. Ships collided in the chaos, confusion spreading like wildfire. Then, the real attack began. Human warships decloaked inside the enemy formations, striking from impossible angles. The phantom fleets appeared and disappeared like specters, obliterating key targets before fading back into the void. Council vessels turned to flee, only to find every exit blocked, every escape route already predicted. The battle wasn't a fight. It was a massacre. Across the system, Legion squads deployed onto enemy flagships, their cybernetic enhancements making them more machine than human. Council soldiers, unprepared for the speed and brutality of these warriors, fell before they could even raise their weapons. In the span of a single day, the first wave of the Council's invasion force was annihilated, and Earth hadn't even fired a single planetary defense cannon. On Varathus Prime, panic spread through the Council chambers. Reports flooded in. Entire fleets gone, officers missing, planets under attack from unseen enemies. Elvan, the High Strategist, watched the chaos in silence. "This is impossible," Zalthor hissed. "They were supposed to be weak." Elvan finally spoke, her voice as cold as ever. "We miscalculated." The room fell silent. "They have been preparing for this far longer than we expected," she continued. "We assumed their exile weakened them. It did not. It forged them into something stronger than any of us." She turned, her many eyes narrowing. "We are no longer hunting humanity." She let the words sink in. "They are hunting us." Aboard the Nemesis, Admiral Nix stood on the bridge, watching the wreckage of Council ships drift through space. "This is just the beginning," she murmured. General Kane nodded. "They wanted war." His eyes burned with cold fury. "Now we give them extinction." The Council was reeling. Never before had they faced an enemy like this. An enemy that struck from the shadows. An enemy that understood them better than they understood themselves. The fleets they had sent to destroy Earth had been torn apart like fragile glass, their proud warships reduced to debris drifting in the cold abyss. Now, the Council's paranoia was growing. Humanity was no longer an inconvenience. It was a nightmare they had unleashed upon themselves. Yet, Supreme Chancellor Vokhtar refused to admit defeat. "We are the rulers of this galaxy," he roared in the Council chambers, his voice echoing through the grand hall. "We have crushed empires before. Humanity is no different." But as his rage filled the room, Elvan, the High Strategist, remained motionless, her many black eyes staring through the holographic battle reports. "No," she finally said. The word was quiet, but it cut through the Chancellor's fury like a blade. "We have already lost," Elvan continued. "The moment we underestimated them, The moment we cast them into exile without ensuring their extinction, we sealed our fate." Vokhtar snarled. "So what do you propose? That we surrender?" Elvan slowly turned her gaze to him. "No," she said again. "I propose that we hide." The council chamber fell into stunned silence. Elvan leaned forward, her mandibles twitching in what could almost be described as unease. "We are fighting an enemy that does not fight conventionally. They do not seek to conquer. They seek to destroy. We are not dealing with an empire. We are dealing with a revenge machine." She activated a holo map of the galaxy, showing the growing number of council worlds that had gone dark in the past month. "They are not just attacking military targets. They are erasing us." In the darkness of space, the Black Armada moved like a silent storm. World after world fell without warning. Human warships bypassed planetary defenses, dropping infiltration teams that disabled entire governments overnight. Political leaders vanished. Military installations turned to smoking ruins before reinforcements could even arrive. On Kelvara Prime, the ruling family of the Vornathi Empire awoke to find their planetary palace breached. In their final moments, they saw faceless human operatives, clad in black armor, before their entire bloodline was erased. On Draknar IV, the warlords of the Jari Empire tried to rally their forces. Their capital city was leveled in a single night. Their bodies were never found. On Thalos V, a major production hub for council warships, an entire factory world was consumed in flames when human saboteurs triggered cascading reactor failures across the planet. The galaxy was bleeding. Humanity was not waging war. They were committing extermination. Back in the Sol system, aboard the Warborn Command Center, General Kane stood before his gathered commanders. "We are past the point of negotiation," he said. "They exiled us. They tried to erase us. They failed. Now, we finish what they started." Commander Asha Varma's expression was unreadable. "And if they surrender," Kane's voice remained steady, "they won't." A hush fell over the room, but then Admiral Nix spoke, her voice like a knife through the silence. "And if they do," she said, "we don't accept." On Verathis Prime, Supreme Chancellor Vokhtar stared at the final reports. Entire species wiped from the stars, entire worlds reduced to lifeless husks. For the first time in his life, he felt fear. The humans were coming, and this time, there would be no mercy. The galaxy was unraveling. The once mighty Galactic Council had ruled with an iron grip for centuries, its authority unchallenged, its dominion absolute. Now that dominion was a dying ember. Entire fleets had been reduced to floating wreckage. Key industrial worlds lay in ruins. The Council's great cities, once thriving centers of commerce and power, were silent tombs. The war was no longer about survival. It was a massacre. Yet, in the heart of Verathis Prime, Supreme Chancellor Vokhtar refused to yield. "We still have the core worlds," he growled, staring at the gathered remnants of his war council. "Humanity has taken our fringes, but they have yet to breach the core. As long as we hold the capital, we still have power." General Threxus, a hardened war commander from the Draknar Empire, stepped forward. His reptilian features were lined with exhaustion. "With respect, Chancellor," Threxus said, his voice heavy, "our fleets are broken, our people are terrified. The moment humanity arrives here, the war is over." Vokhtar slammed a fist onto the war table. "Then we make a stand. We gather every ship, every soldier, every weapon. We will not go down without a fight." The chamber fell silent. Elvan, the high strategist, observed the exchange without expression. She had spent her long life analyzing war, predicting outcomes, calculating survival chances. She did not speak, because she already knew the truth. Humanity had already won, and then the alarms blared. In the void beyond Verathis Prime, the Black Armada emerged from the shadows. Thousands of human warships, their hulls painted in black to swallow light, advanced with the slow, deliberate inevitability of death itself. They did not rush. They did not waste effort. They moved as if they already owned the battlefield. And in a way, they did. Council defense fleets scrambled to meet them, forming desperate battle lines. They launched every last weapon in their arsenal, desperate to halt the advancing tide. The humans did not flinch. Stealth cruisers phased between dimensions, striking from impossible angles. Cyber warfare teams shut down enemy ships before they could fire a single shot. Legionnaires deployed in high-orbit drop pods, cutting through enemy defenses like a virus through flesh. The battle was not a contest. It was the last breath of a dying empire. Inside the Chancellor's war room, chaos erupted. "Our fleets are breaking!" a tactical officer shouted. "They've already taken the outer orbital stations." Vokhtar gritted his teeth. "Deploy the planetary defense grid. I want every gun on that fleet." "The defense grid is compromised," another officer reported, his voice shaking. "They've already taken control of it." A deep, suffocating silence filled the room. And then the lights flickered. Elvan turned her many eyes toward the darkened corners of the chamber. "We're already dead," she murmured. The security doors slammed shut. Gunfire erupted. The war room descended into screams as human operatives emerged from the shadows, their weapons precise, their movements calculated. One by one, council leaders fell where they stood, their bodies slumping over the war table that had once dictated the fate of the galaxy. The last to fall was Supreme Chancellor Vokhtar. As he gasped for breath, blood pooling beneath him, he saw a shadowed figure standing over him. A human. General Kane. Kane knelt beside him, staring into the Chancellor's eyes with cold detachment. "You should have finished the job when you had the chance," Kane said. Then, without another word, he ended Vokhtar's life. The Galactic Council was no more. Within hours, Verathis Prime burned. Its towers crumbled. Its streets were flooded with smoke and ruin. The galaxy belonged to humanity now, and there would be no mercy. The war was over, but the new era was only beginning. The war was over, but humanity was not finished. With the fall of Verathis Prime, the Galactic Council ceased to exist. Its leaders were dead. Its fleets were destroyed. Its laws, once absolute, had turned to dust. Across the galaxy, species that had once bowed to the Council now faced a grim reality. Their rulers were gone. Their armies had fallen. And the new masters of the stars had no intention of ruling with kindness. Humanity did not seek to govern the galaxy. They sought to rebuild it in their image. And that meant tearing down the old order, piece by piece. The capital of the new regime was not on Earth. Earth had become a symbol, a legend whispered among the remnants of the galaxy, a forbidden world that no alien dared approach, shrouded in myths of its unbreakable defenses. Instead, humanity chose Draxis IV, a former industrial hub of the Council, as their new throne world. It was a planet of steel and fire, where the sky was choked with the smoke of endless forges, where warships were built faster than the stars could count. From here, General Kane, now supreme executor of the human dominion, ruled with an iron grip. His council was not made of politicians. It was made of warriors. Admiral Nix, commander of the Black Armada, Asha Varma, head of the Phantom Division, Legate Orion, leader of the Revenant Corps. There was no democracy. There were no negotiations. There was only order. The species of the galaxy quickly learned what it meant to live under human rule. For those who surrendered, there was survival. They were allowed to exist, under strict conditions. Their worlds were monitored, their resources were taxed. They were never allowed to rebuild their fleets beyond what humanity permitted. For those who resisted, there was annihilation. The Jari tried to fight back, launching a desperate last stand in the Kelvanis Nebula. Their fleet was wiped from existence in a single night. Their homeworld now a smoldering wasteland. The Yavati attempted an insurgency, believing they could wage a guerrilla war against their human overlords. They learned too late that humanity had mastered the art of total warfare. Their rebellion lasted 36 hours. Their species was never seen again. And then there were the remnants, the scattered survivors of the former Galactic Council, hiding in the farthest reaches of space, clinging to the hope that one day they might rise again. They were hunted. One by one, the last survivors of the old regime were erased. The galaxy belonged to humanity now. And yet, even as the stars burned under their dominion, there were whispers of a hidden enemy. Deep in the uncharted regions of space, beyond the known galaxy, something was stirring, something ancient, something watching. Humanity had proven themselves the apex predators of the galaxy, but they had not yet faced what lay beyond. And soon, they would learn that in the grand order of the universe, even conquerors could become prey. The galaxy knelt beneath human rule. The once mighty Galactic Council had crumbled into dust, its remnants scattered, its worlds either subjugated or destroyed. Across the stars, alien civilizations lived under the ever-watchful eye of humanity's war machine. But in the void beyond charted space, something stirred. A signal. It was faint, an impossible whisper on frequencies long thought dead. It did not originate from any known civilization. It did not match any council archives. It was something older, and it was watching. Supreme Executor Kane stood aboard the Horizon's End, humanity's most powerful command ship, staring at the transmission on the holodisplay. The signal was repeating, a deep pulse that seemed almost alive, shifting in ways no language had ever been deciphered. "This doesn't match anything in the Council's archives?" Kane asked. "No, sir," Admiral Nix responded, arms crossed. "And that's what concerns me." Behind them, Asha Varma, head of the Phantom Division, leaned forward, her cybernetic implants processing the data faster than any human mind. "This isn't just a distress signal," she murmured. "It's an invitation." Kane's gaze hardened. An invitation to what? Asha hesitated, her neural interface analyzing the sub-frequencies. "Something is expecting us." Silence fell over the command room. For decades, humanity had been the hunters. They had torn through the Council's defenses, crushed the empires of old, and established dominance over the known galaxy. But this was different. This signal was not from prey. It was from something waiting. A task force was assembled. The Spearhead Fleet, a detachment of humanity's best warships led by the battleship Iron Vow, was sent beyond the edge of known space, following the signal to its source. For weeks, they traveled through the void, crossing the desolate remains of star systems long abandoned. Until, finally, they found it. A world, or what was left of one. A shattered planet, its surface scarred with the ruins of a civilization so ancient that even time itself had forgotten its name. But the ruins were not dead. There was power pulsing beneath them. And the moment the humans arrived, the signal changed. It spoke. Inside the command center of the Iron Vow, the transmission echoed through the ship's speakers. It was not in any known language, yet every human understood its meaning. "You are not the first." The word sent a chill through the room. We watched as others rose, as they conquered, as they fell. The signal pulsed, as if amused. "You think yourselves supreme, but you are only the next chapter in an endless cycle." Then, for the first time, Kane heard something he had not expected. Laughter. Deep, resonant, inhuman laughter. And then, something woke beneath the ruins. The ruins trembled. Beneath the surface of the shattered world, ancient mechanisms groaned to life, shaking off the weight of millennia. Dust, untouched for eons, spiraled into the thin atmosphere as vast, unseen machines rumbled deep beneath the crust. On the bridge of the Iron Vow, every human officer stood frozen, their eyes locked onto the planetary feed. The signal had changed. It no longer carried just whispers. It was now a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, deafening. And then the ground split open. "Fleet-wide alert," Admiral Nix barked. "Prepare for immediate withdrawal." "Negative," Kane countered, his voice like iron. "We hold position." The humans had come here seeking answers. He would not allow them to flee now, not when they were finally face to face with something that predated even the Council. The ground continued to split apart, revealing something beneath. A city. A vast, impossible city, buried beneath the planet's crust. Towers of obsidian metal pierced the broken sky, humming with power. Glyphs, glowing with an eerie green energy, traced patterns over massive walls. And at the heart of it all, a monolith, a black spire, rising kilometers into the air, waiting. Kane exhaled. That's not just a ruin. Asha Varma's cybernetic eyes flickered. No. She swallowed hard. That's a tomb. The fleet hovered above the surface, their weapons locked onto the monolith. Then, without warning, something answered the signal. The space around the planet ripped open. It wasn't a warp jump. It wasn't an FTL breach. It was something wrong, something unnatural, a hole in reality itself. And through it came ships. Or at least something like ships. Their hulls were blacker than the void, their forms shifting, rippling as if refusing to be fully seen. They made no sound. They gave off no energy signatures. They had been waiting. And now, they had returned. Inside the Iron Vow, alarms blared. "Unknown vessels detected. They just appeared." Kane clenched his jaw. "Hail them." No response. The ships did not move to attack. They simply watched. Then the monolith spoke again. "You were warned." A terrible, slow realization dawned. This was not a simple distress signal. This was a test. And humanity had just triggered something that had ended empires before them. The unknown ships finally moved, not toward the humans, toward the rest of the galaxy. Whatever these things were, they had just awoken, and they were not here to talk. The black ships moved without sound, without warning, without hesitation. Within moments, they vanished, not into hyperspace, not into any known FTL pathway. They simply disappeared, slipping through the fabric of reality itself. And then, across the galaxy, the nightmare began. The first attack struck Omega-4, a human-occupied stronghold on the edge of the Dominion's territory. The colony had stood unchallenged for years, a fortress world built to crush any rebellion. It boasted planetary shields, orbital defenses, and an armada capable of holding off an entire fleet. None of it mattered. The enemy arrived inside the shields, their ships phasing into existence within Omega-4's defenses, as though they had never needed to travel at all. By the time the alarms rang, it was too late. The black ships unmade the colony, not with weapons, not with explosions, but with something worse. Wherever their shadows passed, matter simply ceased to exist. Buildings crumbled into nothing. People vanished mid-step, mid-scream, mid-thought. Within 3 minutes, Omega-4 no longer existed. The transmission logs captured only one thing before the world was erased. A single whisper. "We remember." The Dominion's fleets responded at once. Admiral Nix led a counterattack, assembling 6 battle groups to defend the next projected targets. This time, humanity was ready. Or so they thought. The battle for Draxus 7 was a massacre. The Iron Vow and her fleet held formation, their weapon arrays locked onto empty space. Every human gun, missile, and energy cannon was primed, watching, waiting. Then, the black ships came again. Not from hyperspace, not from warp gates. They simply appeared, emerging from nothingness in perfect synchronization, like an orchestra playing to the beat of war. The first volleys were fired. And they did nothing. Humanity's weapons passed through the black ships without effect. Bullets, beams, nuclear warheads, everything phased through them as though they weren't real. And then, the enemy answered. A wave of darkness swept through the fleet, ships crumbling into dust as if they had never existed. Entire crews vanished. No screams, no wreckage, just erasure. Admiral Nix ordered a retreat. Less than 10% of her forces survived. Back on Draxus 4, Supreme Executor Kane watched the battle logs in grim silence. The Dominion had won every war it had ever fought. But now, they faced an enemy that didn't play by the rules of reality. Kane turned to Asha Varma, his expression like stone. "Find me something we can kill them with." Asha's cybernetic eyes flickered, scanning through every possible tactic. Every historical war, every classified council archive they had seized. There was nothing. Nothing but rumors. Whispers of an ancient war fought long before the council, before any known civilization, and one name that kept appearing in the data: the Forgotten. "They were wiped from history," Asha murmured. "Not by time, not by war." She looked up at Kane, her voice quiet. "They were erased by these things." Kane's jaw tightened. "Then why the hell are they back?" Asha hesitated, and then she said the words Kane did not want to hear. "Because we woke them up." The Dominion had one last chance. If they didn't find a way to fight back, humanity wouldn't just lose the war. They would be forgotten, just like those who came before them. The realization hit humanity like a tidal wave. They had not merely stumbled upon an ancient enemy, they had unleashed it. The Forgotten, as the Whispers called them, were not a race, not a species, not even a force of nature. They were something older, something that existed outside the boundaries of comprehension, a remnant of a universe that had ended long before this one began. And now, humanity's relentless ambition had drawn their gaze. The Dominion was fracturing. World after world fell silent, erased from existence as the black ships spread their shadow across the galaxy. Panic gripped even the most hardened soldiers. The invincible war machine that had crushed the Galactic Council was powerless against an enemy that could not be touched, could not be fought, could not be understood. But humanity did not survive centuries of exile by surrendering. Supreme Executor Elias Kane stood in the Warborn Command Center, the last bastion of human resistance, now relocated to a fortified station orbiting Earth itself. The galaxy they had conquered was slipping away, but Earth, the cradle of their defiance, remained untouched. For now. Around him, the remnants of his war council gathered. Admiral Nix, her fleet reduced to a handful of battered ships. Commander Asha Varma, her cybernetic enhancements pushed to their limits as she scoured every scrap of data for a solution. And Legate Orion, the stoic leader of the Revenant Corps, his bio-enhanced soldiers ready to die for a cause they no longer fully understood. "We can't fight them with weapons," Asha said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion etched into her face. "Everything we've thrown at them, energy, matter, even experimental phasing tech, it's useless." "Then we don't fight them with weapons," Kane replied. The room turned to him, confusion flickering in their eyes. Kane stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the holo display showing the encroaching darkness swallowing the stars. They're not just erasing us. They're erasing everything we've built, everything we are. They want us forgotten, so we make sure they can't forget us. Nix raised an eyebrow. You're suggesting we outlast them? No, Kane said. I'm suggesting we burn so bright they choke on the ashes. The plan was desperate, insane, and quintessentially human. They called it Project Eternal Flame. Using the Dominion's most advanced technology, combined with fragments of Council archives and the faint clues left in the ruins of the shattered world where this nightmare began, humanity devised a final act of defiance. They couldn't destroy the Forgotten, they couldn't stop them, but they could make sure their mark on the universe endured. The core of the plan was a weapon of last resort, a quantum resonance cascade. It wasn't designed to kill the enemy. It was designed to imprint humanity's existence into the fabric of reality itself. Every ship, every station, every human world would become a beacon, broadcasting a signal so powerful it would echo through time and space, beyond the reach of erasure. It would cost everything. The black ships closed in on Earth, their silent advance unstoppable. The remnants of the Black Armada formed a final defensive line, knowing they would fall. The Phantom Division deployed across the system, planting the cascade devices on every moon, every asteroid, every fragment of human territory left. Kane stood on the bridge of the horizon's end, watching as the enemy approached. Beside him, Nix and Asha prepared for the end. "Activate it," Kane ordered. Across the solar system, the cascade devices flared to life. A wave of light, impossible, blinding, infinite, erupted from Earth and its surroundings, rippling outward through the galaxy. It carried everything: humanity's history, their triumphs, their failures, their rage, their hope. It burned into the stars themselves, a testament that could not be undone. The Forgotten paused. For the first time, their advance faltered, as if the sheer audacity of humanity's act had caught them off guard. And then they struck. The black ships descended upon Earth, their shadows consuming the planet in moments. The horizon's end vanished. The Warborn command center dissolved into nothing. Every human, every ship, every trace of their civilization was erased. The galaxy fell silent, but the signal remained. Long after the Forgotten retreated back into the void, long after the stars grew cold, the quantum resonance cascade endured. It whispered through the cosmos, a defiant echo that no force could silence. The Forgotten had won the war, but humanity had won eternity. They were gone, but they would never be forgotten.